Hi, so today we're going to continue reading about slavery, but I want to just kind of go over what we learned yesterday. So we talked about the cotton gin and how the cotton gin could clean cotton faster than 50 people. So therefore, growing cotton became profitable because they could do more with it. And so therefore, slavery was, I don't want to say becoming needed, but they needed a lot of people to work and grow cotton. And so they resulted in using slaves to help that. And the slavery started moving west as the plantations started moving west. And then we talked about Frederick Douglass, and he was someone who wanted to get rid of slavery, and then Sojourner Truth, who wanted to get rid of slavery. And they were former slaves. So here we go. There's a picture of Frederick Douglass and Sojourner Truth. As more people realized how badly enslaved people were treated, calls to abolish slavery grew stronger. So remember, abolish means get rid of or abstain from. Abolitionists felt that their efforts to free slaves was linked to the fight for freedom that had begun in the 1770s. The Declaration of Independence stated that all men are created equal. Remember, we watched the video about the Declaration of Independence, and Morgan Freeman talked about, he started at the beginning that all men are created equal, but he as a black man normally would not have been in Independence Hall then. So it's kind of going back to that, all men are created equal, but yet they weren't. Abolitionists worked to extend equality to African Americans whose rights were being denied because of slavery and discrimination. Women worked to reform. So we know basically throughout history, if you did not own property, if you were not a man, if you were not white, especially in America in the early 17, 18, even 1900s, you did not have very many rights. So women are working for rights. In the early 1800s, women had few rights. Married women could not own property. Everything they had belonged to their husbands. Women could not vote, and most women could not go to college. These types of jobs, the types of jobs that women held, usually paid very little. The working conditions in the textile mills and clothing shops that hired women were harsh. Women who worked in them often toiled in poorly ventilated and overcrowded rooms. Some women worked as long as 12 hours a day. In spite of these limits, women began to work to reform or improve their society. Many women promoted temperance or stopping the drinking of alcohol. They also strove to make education available to more girls. Once One reformer, Emma Willard, opened a school for female students in Troy, New York that offered college courses. Many women were abolitionists. They also, as they became involved in the abolitionist movement, they recognized the injustice they also faced as women. So they're like, hey, you're not treating African Americans right. All men are created equal, but where are women in this picture? Susan B. Anthony was a crusader for women's rights, kind of like a fighter, temperance and abolition. So she wants women to have rights. She doesn't want people to be drinking, and she doesn't want slavery. Anthony eventually became the president of an organization that fought for women's voting rights, or suffrage. Suffrage means the right to vote. Two other women, Lucretia Mott and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, were also abolitionists that began to fight for women's rights. In 1848, Stanton and Mott called a convention in Seneca Falls, New York, to talk about equality for women. Nearly 300 people attended. Seneca Falls resolutions. All laws which place a woman in the position inferior to a man, that means lesser than a man, have or no force or authority. It is the duty of women, of all the women in this country, to secure themselves their sacred right to elective franchise, the right to vote. And it says Elizabeth Cady Stanton addressed the first women's convention in Seneca Falls, New York on June 20th, 1848.